Welcome everyone to episode 69 of the Stardom Cast. I'm your host, Matt Turner. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope this podcast is finding you in a good place. And I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this journey we're going to take for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. Whatever it takes, we're here for the long haul. I hope everybody had a really, really good week. I'm trying to think what I did since last time I talked to you. Oh, I actually saw the new Top Gun movie, Maverick. I was kind of raised on the first one that came out like 30 years ago, so I thought it was pretty cool that they did a sequel like 30 years later, and I thought it was fantastic. I've been hearing nothing but rave reviews on it. I thought it was absolutely tremendous, just as good, if not better, than the first one. And then, you can always tell it's a good week when pretty much on the same day, Megadeth and Ozzy Osbourne released two new songs. And as long as these two legends have been going, those two songs are absolutely fantastic. So if you're a metalhead like me, go check out the new Ozzy and Megadeth songs and tell me what you think. And if you've seen the new Top Gun movie, let me know what you think. You guys know how to get a hold of me. Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter. Okay, usually I like to start off the show. Other than a little bit of chit chat, I like doing a little chit chat, letting everybody know here what I'm up to, letting the fans, friends, and family at the Stardom Cast what I'm up to. But other than that little the movie thing, really not too much going on. Just keeping busy with work and whatnot, and my 14 other side projects. But usually after the chit chat, I usually like to get into some news, and really there's really not too much news, and we're just kind of coming off the pay-per-view. There was a lot of stuff that was built on after the pay-per-view, which we're going to get into pretty much the heart of the podcast. Really, the only news that I'm not gonna that was basically announced in the last day or two that I'm pretty much gonna cover on all the shows is they announced the next tag team challenges for Hazuki and Koguma FWC. The next challengers will be Mirai and Ami Sohrei. I believe they said July 2nd. So we're gonna get a nice tag title match leading up to the big pay-per-view coming up on the 9th. But let's get into the shows. I'm gonna review the show on the 19th. The show on I'm going through my notes here. The 25th and the pay-per-view on the 27th. So we're going to run right through these. I'm going to go through my star ratings, go over a couple things, little tidbits here, and then we'll get out of here. So let's start off with, like I said, 6/19, June 19th, 2022. We'll start off another 5-star qualifier, Ami Sohrei versus Momo Kohgo. This was another really, really good match. It was another David versus Goliath style match. I thought Momo Kohgo looked really, really good here. This whole tour, she looked really good. They're doing a good job building her up for that high-speed title match she has coming up on the next pay-per-view against Azumi. But Ami Sohrei, who is undefeated in this tournament, just running right through everybody. She hits a whole bunch of clotheslines pretty much back-to-back, and then the brain buster. I like that. I like that how in the beginning she used her power, and then Momo caught her with a couple flash pins. Was trying to wear her down a little bit, but then once she got the advantage, she hits her with 2 bombs, the clotheslines, and then that tornado brain buster at 6 minutes and 10 seconds. I enjoyed this. I had this one at 3.5 stars. This was a really good way to start off the show. Match number 2 saw Himeka get the pinfall victory over Waka. It's another the Waka story. I see it all the time, and I see it all over social media. It's one of the most interesting things in Stardom. With the stacked roster and some really good storylines. And then you kind of have some really weird ones. I guess if you want to talk about some news, some really weird stories is the Grim Reaper choking out Saya Kamatani and Rasi Ogawa, who might win an Academy Award for Worst Actor. Great booker, terrible actor. Anywho, getting back to this match. Yeah, Himeka picks up the pinfall over Waka here with the Boston Crab. The two of they have, because it's like another David versus Goliath style match, and I mentioned this in the multiple person tag matches they've been having over the past few months with Cosmic Angels versus DDM, which does happen a lot. They kind of rinse and repeat that, which is okay because the matches are quality and they get over. That's the main thing, is the matches get over with the crowd. The way that Himeka feeds for Waka for forearms, and she sells for it at the right time, at the right place, and as the match is building, she does a good job of even selling even more. So she gives Waka a lot in these matches, and this one she gave her a lot. So it was another good solid match, another good outing between these two. These two have pretty good chemistry together. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Went just a tad under 7 minutes. I had 3.25 stars. And it was pretty cool seeing Himeka, who's one of the bigger and stronger wrestlers in Stardom, get the victory with the Boston Crab. That doesn't really happen, a whole lot. The next match we saw Maika versus Lady C. Right from the get-go, I'm really liking this super aggressive Lady C. We've been seeing some post-match interviews where they're saying, hey, Lady C, you joined Queen's Quest. Has it turned out the way that you want it. And she flat out said no. I don't know if that means she's going to turn to go maybe join DDM or maybe a Oedo Tai, or if we're just going to get a super more aggressive Queen's Quest Lady C, because that's, I think, what Queen's Quest would need at this point, with that stacked roster. Utami, Azumi, and Saya Kamatani all pretty much been dominating the Stardom wrestling world for the past year or so. So then you have Lady C in there, and she's way more aggressive. I mean, as soon as the bell rings, she goes right after Micah. I thought that was really good, and the two of them go outside. They have a wild brawl, a really good way to kind of inject some life into the crowd. Not that they were dead or anything, but you're like, holy jeepers. You have Micah, who's been at the flirting with the top part of the card for a good portion of the last 5 or 6 months, and rightfully so. She's fantastic. We have Lady C right out the get-go, just jumping her and then dumping her on the outside, and we get a brawl, to pretty much start this thing. They get back into the ring, and Micah hits Lady C back with some stiff kicks. She's getting a receipt for some of the stuff she was throwing back out there in the beginning. Lady C counters with a big boot. I mean, she gets Micah right back. I mean, these two were not holding anything back. And then she gets her in the corner and does the machine gun style, the Kenta Kobashi style chops. Lady C then goes for that Cobra Clutch submission. I like how she works it. I like how she puts it on and then almost does like a backbreaker, and then she holds it. And it's a really good visual in the middle of the ring, especially for how tall Lady C is. So you have that visual of a larger opponent, larger, lankier opponent, putting on this tall submission. So it's like you have like the leverage and size advantage. Really looks like it could be a finish in a majority of these matches, and Micah does a really good job of selling this thing like it would almost be the finish. Micah winds up countering into the rear naked choke, and then she does 2 big clotheslines, and then she hits this superplex for the win. You don't see her getting the win with the superplex, but I thought that was pretty good about how she broke out of the Cobra Clutch submission. She starts working the rear naked choke. She hits 2 big clotheslines. The back Lady C up to the corner, hits it with the big superplex. The big superplex, excuse me, for the 1, 2, 3. I just said 3.5 stars. I thought this was really, really good. And they gave it a good amount of time. I think it was about 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Match number 4 saw the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Unagi, Mina Shirakawa taking on the Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani, Miyu Amasaki, and Utami Hayashishita. I thought this was really good. Another really solid outing. The Queen's Quest team, the Cosmic Angels team, and the Queen's Quest team, they do a really good job with the double teams and the triple teams, but it's really kind of what Cosmic Angels in these multi-person tag matches are really known for, is getting the advantage by doing double teams, triple teams, or quadruple teams. So I thought that was really good. I thought Miyu's stuff looked really good here. Sai and Utami, again, I've been saying on this podcast the last couple weeks, I think they have something in play for the two of them, because the way they've been gelling even better as a team, and they're former tag champs, they're former Goddess of Stardom tag champs, the way they've been gelling, it's like even better. And I think it might be somewhere down the road where they might put them in for a tag title shot. I would not be surprised, and I wouldn't be bothered by it. Obviously, Saya Kamatani is a little bit busy defending the World of Stardom Championship, but we've seen it before. We've seen it quite a few times, actually, where there'll be a main event style singles holder going after one of the tag belts, or actually even winning it. If you remember, Freedom held all the belts in Stardom a handful of years ago. Time limit draw, 3 3/4 stars. I thought this was really good. The Tam and Utami stuff, they've been kind of teasing that off and on ever since the Cinderella tournament. It looked like it was a little bit back on here, so that's a match that hopefully that we'll be able to see somewhere in the future. Match number 5 saw the God's Eye team of Shiri and Mirai defeat the down-the-middle team of Juliet, Mai Sakurai. This was really good. Another really solid performance here from Shiri and Mirai. Well, really all 4 ladies, but she's just the machine. She's like, when she's in that ring, she just commands your whole attention. I mean, she's just such a star. Right now, as we're 6 months through this year, she's my overall wrestler of the year, not just in Stardom, but in any company. And I watch a lot of wrestling, folks. A lot of wrestling. I mean, she just comes off as a star. Even just the way she's getting ready to lock up or do the finger lace, so the way that she'll throw a kick in or tease a kick or do a double leg takedown. I mean, it really looks like she has her opponent in danger just about every moment of the match. It's like almost like Don't Blink, like a big heavyweight fighter, or, you get a really good grappler for the UFC or mixed martial arts. Like, don't blink, because this could be over at any time. Mai Sakurai holds her own here. She really holds her own. Her stuff, I thought, with Mirai was really good. I thought, obviously, the Julia Shiri stuff, That's excellent. I think pretty much everybody has pegged somewhere down the line towards the end of the year, either coming off the 5-star or either at the end of the year for their big end of the year show. We're going to see Sherry versus Julia. Again, they had that fantastic match at World Climax just a few months ago. Or they can do Sherry versus Julia at that big joint New Japan Stardom show coming up in November at the 15,000 seat arena. So again, they gave a little bit of tease there. And I thought the Mariah Julia stuff was excellent as well. And that's something that I would definitely like to see somewhere down the line again. Again, maybe at the 5-star. It's a lot of potential, really good matches, going into that. I had this one at 3.5 stars. Mariah winds up hitting a couple left-handed lariats and then basically knocking Julia out of the match, allowing Sherry to get the rear naked choke on Mai Sakurai. Big fan of the rear naked choke being used as a finish. I've been saying I think Utami should use it as a finisher. We've been seeing Sherry use it quite a bit more often here. Maybe be something that if Utami does start using it as a finisher and they build back to that feud of the year with those 2 match of the year candidates with Sherry versus Utami, where they can almost like get another side story. Like, not only is it rekindling the feud, not only is it for the World of Stardom Championship, which I'm assuming when they have that match down the road, it will be, but it's also going to be a battle who has the better rear naked choke. So, hey, Stardom, maybe take a listen, because that would add just another wrinkle into what will be, I'm sure, a fantastic rematch. Match number 6 saw the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Saya Ida, and Koguma versus the Oedo Tai team of Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, Saki Kashima, and Ruaka. I'm kind of bagging on Ruaka a little bit on the podcast here, and I really don't mean to. I really mean to be positive, but it seems like when she's in these multi-person matches, she just gets a little bit better. I thought everything she did here was really good. I was really, really impressed with everything she did. Mayu Iwatani, again, when she's in these multi-person matches, if you're paying a ticket to see her, you're going to get, like, she's going to play the hits. You're going to get all the good stuff that she does. There's no wasted moment in anything she does, whether she's in the ring, on the apron, whether she makes her entrance. But she also is really smart by giving the other members of the team quality ring time, that they need a little bit more ring time. Like Saya Ida, she's just coming off that big injury. So, she's still working off a little bit of ring rust. Hazuki and Koguma are the tag champs, so it's very apparent that she gives them time to get their tag stuff over. I mean, it's really, really smart, but it's not like she dogs it. She still gets all of her really, really good stuff in there. The Hazuki and Momo Watanabe stuff, I've said on this podcast before, I think Hazuki's best match ever was that Wonder of Stardom title challenge against Momo a few years ago. I thought that was her best match, and it looks like she's rekindling a little bit of that stuff there. That stuff was hard-hitting, wrestling at its finest. Hazuki plays no crap with Starlight Kid. She kind of gets the better of Momo. Starlight Kid comes in there to try to cut her off. Plays no BS with Starlight Kid as well. I mean, she really gives it to Starlight Kid pretty well. There's really good triple and quadruple tag team moves from both teams. I thought that was a really cool part, especially when Oedo Tai, when they needed to take the heat back, they needed to take control back. They know they couldn't do it 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 or even like 3-on-2. Or 3-on-3, so they had to make it like a 4-on-1 or a 4-on-2. Just kind of an old school heel tactic. I thought that was good. That got actually the crowd where it needed to. The Hazuki Mayu stereo dives, I love it when they do that, because the way they pump up the crowd and they do it perfect. Because if one of them's a little bit too high, one of them is a little bit too low, if they're off kilter a little, they're gonna wind up bouncing, touching either the top rope or the second rope, and it may send the other one crashing. And it rarely happens. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I've ever seen it happen. So the two of them hit it. The timing's perfect. The spacing's perfect. It's just a really cool visual that really, really pops the crowd. I thought that was great. Really great exchange between Saki and Saya Ida at the end. I thought that was really good. And Saki catches Saya with the Kishigasai in about 15 minutes. 3 3/4 stars. The match had a lot of time. Moving on, we will go to... As you can probably hear, maybe me flipping through my notebooks. We will go through the show on the 25th of June in the Kyoto Arena with the beautiful stained glass background. Match number 1 saw Miyu Amasaki defeat Waka Tsukiyama in a 5-star qualifier. This match went over just about 8 minutes. I had it at 3.5 stars. I thought that was really good. Some really good chain wrestling in the beginning, some really good counter wrestling towards the end. And I'm a big fan of that leg lace Bob Backlund style bridge that Miyu uses as a finish, because she uses that leg lace to basically like wear down her opponent like in the middle of the match. So it kind of looks like she's going for it again, but she actually turns it into a pin. A really big fan of that one. I had a 3.5 stars. I thought this was a solid way to start the show. Match number 3 had Lady C versus Ruaka. Again, this was another great outing from Ruaka. Like I said, she's pretty good when it comes to these multi-person matches when she has a Momo Asaki, a Starlight Kid, to kind of put everything where it needs to go. In the singles matches, I think she's been hit or miss, a little bit more miss for me. I thought she was a hit here. I thought this was really good. I thought it was, again, you saw Lady C super aggressive here towards Ruaka, and Ruaka really giving her stuff back. I thought Ruaka, her placing, her timing, for all of her big moves for Lady C, I thought was really, really good. And it's a really cool visual because, again, Lady C is so tall, so Ruaka hitting the fisherman suplex and then the freezer bomb for the win. I thought that was a really cool back-to-back visual. I thought 3.25 stars. I thought they kept it simple. Everything made sense. They had the crowd where they needed to. Really good outing here. Match number 3 saw Hazuki and Saya Iida versus the team of Natsupoi and Himeka. Kind of some weird pairings here. Obviously, they're these 2 teams, or these 4 ladies are on the 2 same stables, but just kind of a weird pairing. Well, maybe not too much for the DDM team, since Natsupoi and Himeka were part of the Artists of Stardom legend, record-breaking title reign. So, but just for me, it was kind of a weird combo. But what wasn't weird was the match. I thought the match was really good. Really good way to start with Himeka and Saya Iida just waylaying on each other. The Hazuki Natsupoi stuff is really, really good. Hazuki, every now and again, she'll go back to flashes of her high-speed championship reign that she had a few years ago. So she used some of it there, and then went back to her striking and submission, and Natsupoi using her speed and her very underrated striking as well to kind of isolate Hazuki there. I thought their stuff was really good, and they really gelled well together. Natsupoi and Saya Iida were really good. We've seen this in the past before, where obviously Saya Iida does like to chop people. Natsupoi does a really good job feeding in for those chops. And, she's, at the end of it, it just looks like poor Saya Iida got hit with a wiffle ball bat about a dozen times. Boy, Saya Iida does not hold back on those chops. God bless her. I thought those were the best parts of the match. The Pharaoh gift on Saya Iida gets it done in about 8 minutes and 24 seconds, 3.5 stars. We move on to what I thought was another fantastic match. You had the Queen's Quest trio of Azumi, Utami Ashista, and the Wonder of Stardom champion Saya Kamatani versus the Donald DeMendel team of Julia, Mai Sakurai, and Maika. This is really good. I thought this was really excellent. I liked how Mai Sakurai because they're doing a good job really building her up, and you can see how well she's been improving these past 7 or 8 weeks. But how she's demanding on, oh no, I'm going to start the match. Here's the Queen's Quest, as I call them, this generation's 4 horsemen, because especially these 3. These 3 they're so good. They have so much charisma. They're so good in the ring. They all work well together. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't need to convince you how good the trio of Azumi, Utami, and Saya Kamatani are. But I thought that was good how, that Mai Sakurai, she held her own a little bit, and then she got hit with a couple double teams and triple teams, which just shows the chemistry of the Queen's Quest team. Eventually, the hot tags will go to Utami and Julia. And we see a match that we kind of really didn't see much before, or really we've never really seen a big singles match between Utami and Julia. Had a lot of people scratching their heads thinking, oh, this is a match that we want to see. Utami had that really long championship run last year, and about halfway through that year, Julia had, pretty much the same run with the Wonder of Stardom championship before she dropped it to Tam at the Budokan Hall. So you never saw Julia getting a title shot here, and a lot of people, including me, thought Julia was going to win the 5-star, and it was going to be Julia versus Utami in the main event of Dream Queendom. Obviously, she got injured, went to Shiri. Again, I'm just speculating. Maybe it was supposed to be Shiri all along. That I don't know. But, this is a match that we might be looking at that, somewhere down the road. Again, maybe for the 5-star. Maybe you title change here or there. We don't know. Is Utami going to get the belt back? Is it going to be Julia? That was the one that upended Shiri, and then maybe somewhere, down the road, we see a title match between the 2 of them. But title or no title, it's definitely a match that not only that I want to see, but I'm sure a lot of people want to see. Anywho, getting back into the match, like I said, that seemed to be the seeds that were planted, was we're going to see that match somewhere down the line. And then you just have the waterfalls. And what I mean by that is you have one after one. You have, Mike hitting her big moves, Mai Sakurai hitting her big moves, Saya Kamatani hitting her big moves, Utami hitting her big moves, and, Azumi hitting her big moves. And Azumi's kicks, Like those buzzsaw kicks, we talked about how right around last year at this time, like all of a sudden, Mayu Iwatani, who was obviously, pretty good striker, she decided she wanted to become like the best striker in the company. And I think like that's where Zumi's like, yeah, maybe it's my turn. I mean, she's really turning up those kicks, like where she places them, how hard she's hitting. I mean, you could hear the smack. I think it's just another wrinkle into her game that she's just upping, that's just making her one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. The Azumi Micah stuff going towards the time limit draw, I thought was great. Here's Micah, one of the stronger wrestlers in the company, and Azumi just like taking her head off with those kicks. And then of course she'll get a lariat or two. That'll happen. Time limit draw, I had no problem with it because of how great the match was. 4 stars. I thought this match was absolutely solid. Match number 5 saw the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Unagi, and Mina Shirakawa versus the Oedo Tai team of Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, and Saki Kashima. Basically, the Artists of Stardom champions in a non-title match. Again, really good tag stuff here from both teams. The double teams, the triple teams. Like I said, kind of like a broken record, but that's almost like what the Cosmic Angels are really known for. Where they're kind of better, in my opinion, than any other of the other factions in Stardom is when they're doing the triple, the 6-person, the 8-person tags. Is they can do the triple teams and the quadruple teams pretty much better than anybody else. The way it sets it up, like where it happens in the ring, the psychology of it, the timing of it, and then of course they'll get their fancy poses in well because you have to pose for the camera, brother. The Mina Momo stuff was really good. I talk all the time about how much I've enjoyed Mina's improvement over the last 2 months, especially with her striking. You're in the ring with Momo Watanabe, in my opinion, the second best striker in Stardom. Still have to say Shiri's number 1. Not by much. Like it's like 1A, 1B. You're gonna have to be throwing some bombs, and she throws some really good forearms. She does a really good job with that enziguri, the rolling elbow as well. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of. But Momo obviously brings it with those forearms, the double knees, the meteor, and of course those stiff kicks. It sounds like a gunshot went off. She just really lays into Mina. But their stuff was really, really good. Really enjoyed their sequences. To me, it was my favorite part of the match. Saki Kashima's closing stretch. It just seems like they're building the matches around her, about like her just taking all this punishment and then teasing the Kishikasai and then eventually hitting it. I thought that was, I thought it was really good. Like her closing stretch with Unagi was really fantastic. How she was just able to just kind of counter at the last second, catch Unagi in the Kishikasai. 3 3/4 stars. It just seems like that seems to be the formulaic thing with this Oedo Tai team. You have 2 really big main event level stars in Momo and Starlight Kid. I mean, they're going after the 2 big belts at the next pay-per-view, and they're doing a really good job building up the 3rd person of the team. Saki, especially with that finish. It's almost like it's the most lethal finish in all of Stardom. Match number 6 in the main event for this show saw the God's Eye trio of Amy Sourei, Mirai, and the World of Stardom champion Shuri defeat the Stars team, Mayu Iwatani, Koguma, and Momo Kogo. You look at this on paper, and if you're watching Stardom long enough, you kind of have an idea what's going to happen. You're like, all right, Momo Kogo's going to eat the pinfall. And she did. She did eat the fall here. But to me, I thought she was the star. No pun intended. Not only of the Stars team, but of this whole match. I mean, you look at everybody you have in this ring, Mayu Iwatani, legend. They can literally put the belt on her tomorrow. Nobody's complaining. Koguma, having a phenomenal year, a finalist in the Cinderella tournament. 2-time Goddess of Stardom champion just in this year alone. You have Shuri, the World of Stardom champion, my Wrestler of the Year. Amy Sourei, who's just destroying people and looking fantastic doing it. And Mirai, who won the Cinderella tournament. So if you're going to peg who's going to be an MVP, you figure it'd be any of those 5. But to me, I thought it was Momo Kogo. I thought she did a really good job. She basically starts the match very similar to Mai Sakurai did in a couple matches prior, where she's like, no, I'll start. Like, she starts with Amy, she starts with Mirai, and then poor Shuri beats the crap out of her. But she really holds her own. And I thought that was really good. I thought that the way that Momo Kogo was basically almost doing different versions of like the 619, the Tiger Feint kick. She did 619 to Amy Sorei's arm. I thought that was really good. Then she did like a 619 like tornado DDT where she went through the ropes onto Mirai. I thought that was really good. And then basically breaks down to a brawl, not a brawl, but like a kind of spots, almost like another mini match, like a 2-3 minute match with Mayu and Shuri. Makes sense. You have the 2 big stars there. You have basically kind of giving you a little bit of that World Climax match that we had a couple months ago. To me, that was my match of the year for Stardom, was that Mayu Shuri match. So you're getting a little bit there. Obviously, no one's going to complain about that. really good near falls with Momo Kogo reversing Mirai's lariat. She goes to throw the left-handed lariat. She catches her by the wrist, slides under, gets the backslide right in the middle of the ring. Perfect timing, perfect ring positioning. That was fantastic. And that takes two to tango. That's just not on Momo Kogo, but Mirai as well for feeding in to the right part in the right part of the ring. I thought that was a really, really good false finish. And the ref did a great job of counting, like 2.9, and Mirai did a really good job hanging on to the last second. So the crowd would bite, and they really did. Eventually, she winds up getting hit with the left-handed lariat and the Mir Mirai shock for the win. 3 3/4 stars, 15 minutes and 11 seconds. So we will now move on to the main event of this show, which was the Stardom Fight to the Top pay-per-view on 6/27, obviously 2022. They had a fantastic attendance of 1,213 paid fans. Obviously, another great number. We see Stardom popping the 4 digits here quite a bit, almost once or twice a month, whether it's a pay-per-view or not. So this is a really, really good number. It just shows just the growth in the company. I mean, you can tell as soon as that thing went live on air, you saw that crowd was packed. So, and I think there's a lot of really good people that get the numbers out really fast. Because I'm always intrigued by the numbers. Rob would always talk about Armani Shoe Exchange, and I never really got a chance to thank him yet, since there's again, I'm doing this solo, so I'm kind of honing in on getting everything done, trying to get the reps in. But I got to give him credit because he's a really good follow on Twitter, and I always look to him when it comes towards the attendance figures, and it's something that I think I'm going to write down more and discuss more because. At the end of the day, it is a business, and it's all about putting, an ass every 18 inches, as Jim Ross would say. So, getting on to the pay-per-view, this aired in the Northeast at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning. I got up at 10 to 3, so I was watching this thing live. And then after it was over, I went and helped my buddy's restaurant out for about 9 hours, came home, took a shower, and then watched the AEW pay-per-view. So I had a long, exhausting, yet fun day. And this was a really good way to start my day because this was another solid pay-per-view. And considering the fact there's only one title match, and I think that there's a lot of people that were, even though the 2 cage match, I think a lot of people kind of almost overlooking this pay-per-view to get to the next one, with Shiri and Momo, Starlight Kid, and Saya Kamatani, for the World of Stardom and Wonder of Stardom championships. But I thought this was another solid show. I mean, this was an easy A+ for me. We'll get right into it. Ruaka, Unagi, and Waka, the opener 3-way. This one kind of, it was fine. They didn't overstay their welcome. They didn't do too much. They did just kind of enough to warm up the crowd. I think maybe this could have went on second. I always think that you should have a really hot match to start on first. Again, nothing was wrong. The psychology was there. You always get the 3 stars from me, and I had this one at 3 stars. I was really shocked Ruaka wind up getting the pinfall win here with the Fisherman Bassoon Freezer Bomb. And then they kind of teased a little dissension with Waka and Unagi. Unagi was leaving the ring, and you could kind of tell she looked a little pissed off, a little PO'd, and they did a really good shot where she turned back, and she looked at that poor Waka selling her arm, her shoulder, her neck, and it was like, he's like, I got to go back and get her. Like, where the camera angle for that was absolutely perfect. And I don't think that's Stardom gets enough credit for, how really good their camera work is and their angles and their timing of that. Just add just a little bit to the stories. Now we're, 2 months ago, we're all wondering when Waka's going to get her first pinfall, and we know it's coming. When's it going to happen? Now it's like, is there going to be a heel turn first? Or are they going to kick her out of Cosmic Angels? Is she going to go elsewhere? Really intriguing story, and they did a good job planting the seeds here. Again, I think they just kind of just want to have the match just to kind of have the match in there and get Ruaka a pinfall win. I think the main crux of this match was the story of the possible, Waka leaving or getting thrown out of Cosmic Angels. Moving on to match number 2, Momo Kogo and Saya Iida of Stars versus Lady C and Miyu Amasaki, representing Queen's Quest. I thought this was a really nice, solid match. I knew we were going to get this, with just the new aggressive style of Lady C. So the Lady C, Saya Iida stuff was really, really good. They were really laying their stuff in. I thought that, the chops and the kicks, the going back and forth, I thought was really good. But Miyu and Momo Kogo, I mean, that's the future Stardom. The future's really bright. I mean, their chain wrestling, their timing coming off the ropes, where they were in the rings for certain things and certain quick and near falls. And you saw Momo Kogo doing a little bit of the high speed to kind of start a little, which where, obviously she has the high speed match with Azumi coming up on the 9th of July. So it's kind of a little bit of a teaser, whether it's like, can she hang with Azumi? And they're doing a really good job in all these matches leading up, showing that, yeah, she can hang with Azumi, and she's showing off the high speed action. And I thought that, hey, we're on a pay-per-view here. We need to, in front of 1,000 people, who knows how many at home are watching, but in front of, over 1,200 people paid in attendance, let's showcase off this high-speed stuff. And I thought this was really good. And Miyu is excellent. She's wrestling like she's a 4 or 5 year vet, and she's only in there like 5-6 months. It's fantastic. Lady C, she gets in a really good amount of offense. I thought she got the majority of the offense here in the tag match. I thought was really good. She had the Cobra Clutch submission, worked really well on Saya Ida. Saya did a really good job fighting and getting out of it. Hits the big left-hander lariat. She puts the belly down armbar for the win, 3.5 stars. Not only was the belly down armbar, but if you remember somebody that was doing something very similar to the late 90s, early 2000s, that was called the Nagata Lock number 3 by Yuji Nagata. Remember, his eyes would like roll into the back of his head. That would be cool if Saya Ida kind of started doing that. Because if you remember, Yuji Nagata is the mystery sensei of Stars. So nice to see that on a big pay-per-view here. Again, I would have given the win to Momo Kogo to build her up a little for Zumi coming up here in a couple weeks. But I'm not going to complain about Saya Ida using a Yuji Nagata finisher. So I thought that was a nice little touch there. 3.5 stars. Match number 3, a match that I was really, really looking forward to. Mina Shirakawa versus Himeka. Right from the jump, Himeka doesn't even get an entrance. Like, Mina comes in, she does her fancy Cosmic Angels entrance, and then Himeka basically blindsides her, comes up from behind, and she tries to get the jump on Mina. Very Oedo Tai thing from Himeka. I didn't realize that this feud was going there, but okay. Mina quickly turns it around, gets 2 almost quick near falls, and then starts working on Himeka's leg. And I thought that we'd have a little bit more striking in this match, considering how much Mina has improved on the striking, and the fact that Himeka throws those wicked lariats, the shoulder tackles, and the forearms as well. We didn't get that, but we got a lot of psychology, so we're seeing a little bit different side from Mina here. Really working on the leg, working in the figure 4. The way she was applying it was really good. Sometimes you'll get people that really haven't had, or wrestlers that really haven't used the figure 4 that much, and sometimes they'll get a little confused on what's supposed to go where, how they're supposed to lock it in. She had no problems with it. I think she put it on twice and had it in the middle of the ring, and it was always coming off like a big move, like a drop kick to the knee, working on Himeka's knee. I thought that was really good. Himeka did a really good job selling the knee, being where she needed to be for Mina, getting in the offense she needed to get in when she needed to get in. I thought that was really good. Again, this was a very psychology-laced match. It wasn't as much striking as I'd like, but I was really impressed just how really good Mina was here. She winds up hitting the Enziguri for a near fall, and then she basically Himeka counters Mina with the Mina special, the Mina Glorious Collection Mina, her own pinfall. It's the old seatbelted pin. So I thought that was something, that the fact that Himeka used Mina's Glorious Collection on her for the win. Definitely didn't see it coming. Thoroughly enjoyed this match. Not at all what I was expecting, but I had no problems with it. I had it 3 3/4 stars. Moving on to now, this pay-per-view was, I thought, pretty solid going into this, but now it just goes into a completely different level. So we get the Artists of Stardom Championship match. It is between the challenging team number 1, God's Eye team of Shuri, Amy Sori, and Mirai. Challengers number 2, the Dimensional team of Maika, Mai Sakurai, and Julia, and the defending champions Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, and Saki Kashima. Now, this is one of the many places in this podcast that I miss Rob, because he would always, when we would do the previews, he would always tell me the rules going into the match. Now, when I did the preview episode for this, I think it was the next day I found out that it was elimination style, because I even said, it would be cool if Momo Watanabe pinned Mirai to give her a little bit of steam going into her championship match with Sherry. And then I found out it was elimination. I didn't find out until the show started or this match started that it was over the top elimination as well. So I was like really in for a surprise, and maybe I just needed to do a little bit more research. But again, that's where Rob was always good. Or he would always text me like a day or two before and be like, hey, mate, just to give you a heads up, this is how this match is going, so this way you're not confused. So eventually I would have picked up on it and figured it out. But needless to say, I thought this match was excellent. The action was nonstop. It got a lot of time. Excuse me, another drink of water there. Right from the get go, you get some Momo Sherry stuff, which you knew you were gonna get. You got to tease that a little. You're basically almost selling more tickets and selling more pay-per-view buys for the pay-per-view just in this match alone. So I thought that was a really good extra thing that they added on here. Really good stuff with Amy Sourei and Starlight Kid. Again, you kind of have the height differential, but Amy Sourei works really good with a lot of these smaller wrestlers. We've seen it with her working with Miyu and Momo Kogo in the 5-star qualifier tournament. And Starlight Kid's one of the best wrestlers in the world, so I thought that was really good. And then they did a really good job highlighting all three teams with the double teams and triple teams. I thought that was really good. Everyone winds up beating up on poor Saki Kashima. It seems like once everybody got their stuff, and it's like we need to put some heat on somebody. I think there was like a 6-way drop kick to poor Saki. Again, Saki's kind of being the spoiler of the party, beating everybody with the Kishikasai. So it's like everyone's like, well, we just kind of just need to take her out. Then you get a little ALK reunion on Starlight Kid. Starlight Kid may be the biggest heel in the match. She runs her mouth quite a bit. She makes all these crazy challenges. Again, we all like Starlight Kid because how great she is in the ring, but she does a really good job playing like a 1970s, 1980s heel. So it was nice seeing Julia and Sherry be like, hey, let's just put our differences away for a little bit so we can beat up on Starlight Kid. I thought that was really good. And then Starlight Kid, Julia, and Sherry are all out on the apron. They're brawling. Who's going to go where? Who's going to German suplex, who onto the apron, who's going to throw who out. They did a really good job teasing who was going to go. 1 second you thought it was going to be Sherry. Next you thought it was going to be Starlight Kid. Then you thought it was going to be Julia. And then they wind up all eliminating each other. So I thought that was pretty cool. So it's just like you have three big stars gone right out the get-go. Not at the get-go because everybody got a lot of really quality stuff in. They really did a good job telling their stories leading up to that. So it's like they got the stuff, they got what they needed to get in, they told their story, and then they made way for other members of their factions to get their stuff over in the match. Momo Watanabe wind up got eliminated from Micah and Mirai, and then Amy Sourei wind up dumping Momo Watanabe out. It was very like a very Royal Rumble style thing where you see kind of like the one heel getting rid of two of the baby faces, and then they gloat a little bit, and then they wind up getting throw out. So then you're down to 1-1-1. You're down to Mei Sakurai, Amy Sourei, and Saki Kashima. Saki winds up getting the Kishikasai on Mei Sakurai, and then you see Amy Sourei just running rampant on Saki. She goes to the Brainbuster to put it away. She gets reversed into the Kishikasai. So Saki Kashima getting all these wins here on these lead-up shows, and then she's basically almost on like a 2-on-1 disadvantage from the challengers, and she rolls both of them up with the Kishikasai. Again, I wish Rob was doing a book this year, because I think one of the stats I'd like to see at the end of the year is what wrestler's finisher got the most falls. Man, we're 6 months in the year. I would not be shocked if it's the Kishikasai. She's beating a lot of people with that. And she gets 2 wins here back to back, so basically carrying the Oedo Tai team. So, and again, it's a nod how well they're getting her over. Again, we could have built Momo or Starlight Kid up a little bit in this match to give them the rub towards their World and Wonder of Stardom Championship matches, but really those two have been building themselves up for the better part of the last 2 years. So I don't think they need too much building up. I don't think anybody's not going to buy the pay-per-view now because Momo or Starlight Kid didn't get the fall. Moving on to the co-main event. Oh, excuse me, I had that one at 4 stars. Solid. Co-main event, Tam Nakano versus Natsupoi. First ever cage match. Boy, this was brutal. Boy, I'm not going to get into everything. If you've seen this match, I actually watched it twice. I watched it, obviously, when it first aired live, and I just watched it about an hour before I was taping, just because I kind of wanted to watch it again. And I was a little confused on the rules. Again, this is, shame on me. I hope hosting a Stardom podcast and I get confused on the rules. So, but again, I try to be as transparent to all my friends and family out there in the Stardom world about what's going on. But Natsupoi catches a quick pinfall on Tam, and I thought, wait, that's the end. And then you realize that you need like a pinfall before you can escape the cage. Or again, I'm still a little confused on it, but I thought it made a little more sense to me the second time I watched it. But I thought even let me back up a second. I'm getting ahead of myself, which I tend to do. I thought, well, as they're putting up the cage, they did a really good job basically going into like a video package. You know, you kind of need to do something to distract the fans a little bit as you're putting up the cage. And I've been on tons of shows where there's cage matches. I've been in a handful of myself. And it takes time, and you want to make sure that thing's secure, not only for the wrestlers, but also for the fans, because you get a side of that breaks and it goes in the first or second row. That's not good. Not good at all. You're going to be giving away a lot of free merchandise to make up for that. But I thought the video package they did, I thought was really good, and they showed quite a bit of the Tam Wonder of Stardom title defense from last year against Natsupoi. So I thought that was a good way to kind of distract the audience as they're putting up the cage. Nice slow build. You can kind of see the intensity right out the get go from these two, and they waylaying each other. I mean, there's no punches pulled. There's one point where, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you've seen the match, but there's the one point where the two of them just pressing each other's faces up against the cage. And you can see like a minute or two later, their faces are just like, looks like a hit with a cheese grater. I mean, it's sweltering up. There's bruises, there's red marks. I mean, they really, really, got into it here. They really did a good job amping this up. And I even said on the preview show last week, I don't understand. There's really not too much of a build. Like, why are you putting this in a cage? Like, why wouldn't you do like Utami versus Momo or Julia versus somebody from Prominence? There's more heat going into that. Or even Mayu versus Starlight Kid. Even though they haven't touched upon that in the past year, like, why are we going here? To me, it kind of didn't make sense. And then they did the press conference thing with the pasta, which I was a little confused on. But once this thing got going, which it didn't take much time to, all that was thrown out the window. You can see this. This has been brewing and boiling between these two ladies for a long time. I mean, they really, really were waylaying into each other with a lot of the kicks, a lot of the bumps. I mean, there's one where Natsupoi eats a German suplex, almost in the middle of the cage. I mean, that was just not only was like her bump bad, but even like Tam throwing it as well. I mean, they're both kind of landing on the same speed. I mean, even the ring announcers kind of popped up pretty well for that. I mean, there was just lots of big suplexes even in the ring. Then there was the one part where the two of them were in the top rope, like the middle of the rope, and like brawling on each other. And Tam like goes for a back suplex, and she almost like hits the cage, and they go in between the cage and the ropes. And I was like, there's nowhere to go there. You're literally hitting the ring apron. There's nowhere to go. You're either going to hit the ropes, or you're going to hit the cage, or you're going to hit the ring apron. You have nowhere to go. That was a scary part as well. A couple of really good near falls with Natsupoi trying to get out of the cage. Eventually, she eats the violent shooting. She eats the Twilight Dream. She eats a ridiculous violent screwdriver. Obviously, the Twilight Dream and the violent screwdriver, they all get pinfalls for Tam. She goes to leave the cage, and then Natsupoi goes to follow her. And when she does, they're on the top of the cage, and Tam chokes Natsupoi out with the Dragon Sleeper and then drops her. Natsupoi hits like the top rope, and then she hits the canvas. And I think if you go back and watch it, like I said, I just watched it about an hour ago, and I didn't notice it the first time. But when Tam is climbing out of the cage, she's climbing out where Natsupoi is. And I think she thinks something is wrong, because as soon as she drops, she yells to, I think, Unagi or Mina, who's holding the key, to give her the key. So she stopped selling. Like this whole brutal match, she kind of, Tam's a fantastic seller, very underrated in her selling, but she stopped selling to get the key to go back in the cage to check on Natsupoi. So I think the way that she landed, it was a little bit scary. I think that, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, I thought that was unnecessary. I thought you hit the violent shooting, you hit the Tiger Suplex, you hit the Twilight Dream, and then you hit a ridiculous violent screwdriver. That should have been the end of it. That should have been the end of it. I mean, Tam climbs the cage, and it's like 30 seconds later, like Natsupoi's like right there with her. So it's like you just basically ate all these finishers back to back to back. That should have just left Natsupoi laying. It was a cool visual, her getting choked down in the cage and that crazy bump. Obviously, Natsupoi's okay. As of this recording, I'm recording this on the 28th of June. The two of them just had, from what I'm finding out, a fantastic singles match at Cork Hall. I think they just put that match up like ASAP on Stardom World. So when I get done recording, I'm going to watch that as well. So she must have been okay. From what I'm understanding, people that were in Japan are telling me their singles match from the Cork Hall show was better than this cage match. And I thought this cage match was fantastic. I had it at 4.5 stars. Like I said, there's just a lot of crazy stuff in there. I'm not going to go through everything beat by beat. If there's anything that you want to discuss or talk about, by all means, you guys and gals know how to get a hold of me. But I thought this was absolutely fantastic. And this is like almost turning into feud of the year. I'm always man enough to admit when I'm wrong. And when I was kind of lukewarm about this being, a cage match, I'm like, well, it'll be good because Natsupoi and Town are both excellent. But like, where's the heat and where's the feud coming from? It's like, yeah, I was wrong because you can kind of feel everything building up here. I thought this was fantastic. This is a good way to build Tam up going towards the 5-star, and they're teasing a match with her and Sherry somewhere down the line as well. So I thought this was an excellent match, and again, Natsupoi, even though she came on the losing end of this, now it's something where it's like you can kind of maybe start to slowly build her up for another white belt shot or a nice little run in the 5-star. I don't think she'll make one of the final brackets. At the same time, she can rack up 6 points, 7 points, 8 points. So, we'll see from there. But just an absolute brutal match. Match number 5 saw the staying in the cage, saw the Queen's Quest tandem of Utami, Saya Kamatani, and Izumi versus the Stars team of Koguma, Hazuki, and Mayu Iwatani. This rules match I completely understood. I knew this was escape the cage only. They made this one easy. 2 matches before, I was a little confused, even though they were great matches. 4 stars, 4.5 stars. So, but this one I fully understood. And you have basically, like a majority of the champions here. You have Mayu, who's the SWA champion, Hazuki and Koguma, who are the Goddess of Stardom champions. Utami, the only one not with the belt. At the same time, she's the leader of Queen's Quest. So that's a championship in its own right. Saya Kamatani, the Wonder of Stardom champion, and Izumi, the high-speed champion. And then also, you have Izumi, the high-speed champion. You have Hazuki and Koguma, 2 of the better high-speed wrestlers. And Mayu, who's had the longest high-speed run. So, wow, there's a lot of high speed in the cage. I knew this match was going to be good, but I was still wondering how they were going to do this. You have 6 people in one ring. They can't go anywhere. It's a cage. Where are you going to be able to do all your spots? So I was kind of I knew that they had a plan, and I knew that they would execute it fantastic, and they totally exceeded my expectations. I thought, even leading up to this match, the entrances alone, like Queen's Quest comes out first, and they just come out as stars. I mean, Saya, huge stars. Sumi just has so much more swagger. Utami she's been having that it factor, even months before she beat before she beat Mayu for the championship back almost 2 years ago. And I thought it was funny how Utami looked at the cage and she's kind of pretending that she's scared. And then Stars comes out and Hazuki and Koguma come out and they have to drag Mayu out. And we're all like, what a bunch of BS. We all knew Mayu's the craziest person in this match. Like she's afraid of heights or something, right? So it was just kind of just another wrinkle. It's like, it's Mayu. We'll let her get away with it because she's the icon. She's so great. But this thing starts, and they're doing triple teams back and forth. There's no waste of motion. Everybody's doing something. Right from the start, they're all hitting these crazy spots. The timing is really good. Where everybody in the ring is absolutely perfect, and it has to be. If you're off just a little bit, somebody's bumping into something or somebody's mistiming something, it's basically going to be the domino effect. So both teams hit some signature double and triple team spots, and then they went into the selling, which was perfect. It was basically, you would see Mayu would eat a bump and then she would roll out to the side where the cage was. So this way, you would have other people being able to get some of their stuff in. And I thought there was some really, really good stuff here. I thought Utami doing the double superplex on the FWC was really good. That opened the door for Mayu and Utami to get some really, really good stuff in. It's a really good exchange there. I was a big fan of when they were lining up Saya for the Freedom dropkick. And they went to go launch Mayu. And mid-launch, Izumi jumped up and double-kneed Mayu. I think she was trying to do it for the double stomp, which I don't think she cleared it all the way. I don't think she was able to jump that high enough, but still was a pretty cool visual. Then eventually they get the up on Izumi, and they do the Freedom dropkick with Izumi sitting on the top rope. I thought that was really cool. I mean, they really had to launch Mayu up a little bit higher than normal. Izumi had a great feed, where she was. She ate it like a champ, and that was able to get Mayu. She was the first one to escape. I think the second escape made sense because, like, in one hand, you have the advantage because we have the first person out. The second hand, now it's 3-on-2. So your Queen's Quest team just kind of dominates the tag champs here, beats them up a little, and lets Saya Kamatani eliminate the cage. That was a little hokey that she was like 2 feet off the ground, and she made it like she was afraid to escape the cage. It's like we've seen you do the Phoenix Splash and the 450 before. So, like, why are you scared here? But regardless, I kind of chuckled a little bit. So now we get basically a 2-on-2, almost a tag match. Utami and Azumi versus the tag champs FWC, Hazuki and Koguma. I thought the stuff here was really, really good. Zumi working on an armbar here in the cage match. I thought it was a little different, but it was smart. Kind of made sense. And Hazuki too with the cross faces. I thought that was really good how they were exchanging submission holds, between the two of them, going back and forth there. And it was basically almost like a mini tag match. Which, again, that's another thing I'd like to see somewhere down the line. Not just Utami and Saya versus FWC, but if Saya is busy with the Wonder of Stardom Championship, Utami and Azumi versus FWC. Even if you put it on a Cork and Hall show and you let it go, 20, 25, 30-minute time limit draw, wouldn't be heartbroken seeing those four ladies in a main event Cork and Hall tag match getting a half an hour. Not at all. There's worse things they could put on the show, folks. Really cool here with Hazuki with the big cage dive, and then it's smart for Hazuki to get out. You hit the big move. There's really not much more she can do. Have her get out of the cage. So now you have in Utami and Azumi on Koguma. Koguma just has to escape the cage to win. But again, the psychology that was used before once Mayu left, they get a nice 2-on-1 advantage onto Koguma. Azumi, again, back to the armbar, puts Koguma down. This lets Utami escape the cage. She gets just about out of the cage, and Koguma is trying to bring her back in. She's trying to hold on to something. And I thought it was really cool how Utami, a big fan of her lariats, she lariats the cage and it ricochets into Koguma's face. That was a really cool visual. And then all she had to do was drop down. I'm like, that was pretty nifty. There's no way she's pulling her back up. But I thought that was a really, really cool visual, how she lariated the cage back into Koguma. So not only does it tie it up at 1-1, but it gives Azumi a little bit of advantage because Koguma just ate, basically a forearm full of steel. Koguma and Azumi, they do a little reset. They do the high speed in the cage. I mean, pretty much that's how this match was presented. It was going to be high speed. Koguma said, hey, let's do high speed. Let's do it in the cage. We get it here. Azumi gets the advantage on Koguma. She hits the double stomps off the top rope, which looked disgusting because she was kind of balancing herself off the cage. They go back and forth again, and then this time Azumi does the double stomp off the top of the cage, and I legit leapt out of my seat at like 5:30 in the morning or whatever time it was when I saw this. I thought that was absolutely crazy. I thought that was the finish of the match. I was like, that's a good finish. That's a good finish. Azumi goes to go outside of the cage, or she goes to climb out, and Koguma catches her, and then Azumi takes a pretty nasty but safe bump from the top of the cage onto the outside. Koguma, like she was going to do the Jimmy Superfly Snucker dive off the cage onto Azumi, until she realized, all I gotta do is jump off this. And, I always kind of make a joke when anybody in Stardom does these dives on the outside and they dive onto all the factions. And I was like, how convenient that is. At the same time, this, what happened here was very well warranted. You're jumping off that tall cage. So she jumps onto all the members of Queen's Quest and Stars that were out there, and they catch her, and it was safe, and it was awesome, and this match was great, and all the spots were great, and everything made sense. Nobody got in anybody's way. Everything looked smooth and sharp. I did think it was kind of funny that when Koguma landed on all the members of the two factions, her feet never touched the ground, and they didn't ring the bell. I thought it would have been cool if they would have waited until she rolled off, and then her feet touched the ground and rang the bell. But that's just me. So, fantastic cage matches. I put on social media, that's one of the best cage matches I've seen in a long, long time. Like, my bar for best cage matches, like 1A and 1B, it depends on the day what you ask me. Like Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard, the I Quit cage match, that's 1A, and then 1B is Benoit and Angle from Monday Night Raw. That's 1B. So again, you ask me on different days, those are like the two best. The Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers from one of the AEW pay-per-views recently, that's up there as well. But this one ranks right up there. I mean, this one, Hogan and Paul Orndorff is one that I'll never forget, just because, if you're older like me, you'd understand like the confusing finish. Like you didn't have many controversial finishes where they both left the cage at the same time. They had to, almost do like the photo finish, and they had to do like instant replay, which back like 87, I think that match was 86, 87. You didn't see a lot of that then. It was like a real big, went off the air. We didn't know who won. So like that's up there as well. But as far as like best cage matches I've seen in the last 10 years, it's either one or two, with that Lucha Brothers Young Bucks match. I just at 4 3/4 stars. Again, just adding to the list of match of the year contenders for FWC, for Mayu, for Saya, for Azumi, and Utami as well. Just all 6 really, really badass workers. And I thought that this pay-per-view, again, it was solid, and it was capped off with 2 fantastic cage matches. And even Tam and Natsupoi, Dave Meltzer tweeted out how he woke up the Sunday morning and everyone was telling him about how great the Tam Natsupoi match was. So it's nice that you have the pretty much, you got to give the guy his due. He's the most, popular, the best, whatever you want to say. He's a pro wrestling writer ever. The Wrestling Observer is the most downloaded and most read wrestling newsletter in the history of wrestling newsletters. So when you have Dave Meltzer, who's a big deal in the wrestling industry, folks, whether you like him or not, you have to admit it. He is a big deal in the wrestling industry. When you have Dave Meltzer saying, hey, I heard this match is really great, can't wait to see it, and putting everything out on Twitter, that's nothing but good things for Stardom, for Tam and Natsupoi, and I can't disagree with them. That match was fantastic, but as good as it was, I liked the Stars versus Queen's Quest match just a little bit more. So let me know. I want to know what you think. What match did you like better between the 2 cage matches? Did you like Tam and Natsupoi better, or did you like Queen's Quest versus Stars better? Just let me know. So, well, guys, that'll just about wrap it up as we're coming on to right around an hour here. So I can talk about wrestling forever. That just goes to show that I don't need anybody to bounce anything off. Really, well, I guess, except you, the fine fan. So, again, I appreciate everybody listening. Thank you, everybody that's downloaded the episode. Thank you to everybody that has reached out to me and given me nothing but positive feedback. It means the world to me. Thank you to all the Patreon members. As you see, there's a lot of stuff in the works. Stardom X Stardom 2019 and the Mayu Iwatani World of Stardom Championship reign was just dropped about a week or so ago. Coming up probably in the next few days, or might even be up by the time you listen to this, for the Red Belt tier members exclusive. My first ever watch along of Shuri versus Utami from the Cinderella Tournament Finals from last year. I also just recorded the B. Priestley World of Stardom Championship review and the much heralded and asked for Matt Turner Books Stardom. So I booked 2 cards from Stardom as was voted on by the listeners of this podcast. And then I was direct message from a couple of the listeners saying, hey, this won the poll. I know Rob's not there anymore. Could you do it? So I booked Stardom as if I was booking Stardom 3 months from now, and as if I had a time machine and go back and book anybody from Stardom at any point in time. So those all should be up in the Patreon feed. Like I said, the Red Belt, the watch along should be up hopefully by the end of the week. I think we're trying to get these weekly episodes out by Friday. So hopefully that's up by the time you listen to this. And I think early as of next week, the B. Priestley and the Matt Book Stardom Patreon episodes should be up. So by all means, guys, I appreciate the support. Support the Patreon. If you can't, just, hit that retweet button. Go give me a 5-star review if I deserved it over on the Apple Podcast subscription. But that's about it, folks. We're going to close this one out for episode 69. Matt Turner here. Thank you guys so much. And again, any questions, comments, please reach out to me on Twitter and or the Instagram, Matt Turner OF. And also, if you want to try to reach out to me, StardomCast on Twitter as well. I don't check that as much, but the Matt Turner OF on Twitter and Instagram is something that I frequent quite a bit. So I try to get back to everybody as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate it. Remember, we're all in this together, and everybody's different. Everybody's special. Love you all. Have yourself a great day.